Okay, it seems we are live. Hi everyone, welcome to the platform SIG meeting. Today we have a regular sync up about ongoing projects in platform special interest group. In particular, there is a plan to talk about Windows service, Windows installers rework being done by Alex, and also about Java 11 support project. And since we have Dirk with us on the call, maybe we could also talk about Docker images. Would you like to talk about that? Okay.
Muted.
We can return to it later. So on the call we had Baptiste, David, Durgadas, Mark, and Oliver. Oh, we don't have Alex actually, but okay, we can proceed. So I'll just share my screen. Okay. You see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So we have several topics. Since Alex hasn't joined yet, let's just move Windows installers to the bottom, and I'll also add conditionally add Docker images, multi-architecture ones. Does anybody want to add any additional topics to the agenda?
Do we need an action items recap item or agenda item like we've used in the past?
Let's do that. So yeah, we have a bunch of
embarrassing that
I believe that everybody was, so we had many activities ongoing in Jenkins project now. So we were closing down Java 11 thing, we were preparing JSOC, Mark was on vacation, so I do not think we have many action items completed, but let's double check. Okay. So Mark open job to Docker operating system support.
Not completed. I'll try to get it done by our next meeting in 2 weeks. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. Project ownership for Jenkins Chocolatey, I believe it's done. At least there were some discussions about that in the emails. Yeah, let's wait for Alex. And
yeah, I agree. It's looking like it's at least more than ongoing and probably completed, but I agree that we need to have confirmation from Alex.
Yeah, so my action item still to do. Code signing infrastructure, I believe, also to do, but yeah, we can discuss it later. And yeah, are we missing any action items? I don't think so.
I think it's not the case, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe there are some minor ones. So probably we could take a look at Java 11 status. For those ones who participated yesterday in the governance meeting, yeah, it will be pretty much a recap of what we discussed there. So we have a new weekly release, 2.164, and this weekly release includes this particular keynote entry, changelog entry. Now you can run with Java 11 without setting enable future Java flag. It means that if somebody runs this Jenkins weekly with Java 11, there will be no warning, there will be no whatever, and you will just get it running. So it's a kind of, yeah.
No, just I wanted to say, maybe you want to explain, or you want, I can take over if you want, but because even we do a meeting only every 2 weeks, the second release is also important with regard to Java 11 support, I suppose.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I'll summarize what changed over the last 2 weeks. And yeah, if you want to take over at some point, just let me know.
That's great. Okay. I should have let you go because maybe you were going to do it. Sorry.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was going to do. So just to summarize what changed in the core, there are a few major changes. One is JAX BGRs. So it was our main problem and main blocker for Java 11 availability. So yeah, you remember this running with Java 11. Doesn't really matter which. Yeah. So these things that you need to download jars, you need to set enable future Java. Now nothing is required, so you can just say Java -jar Jenkins war, and everything will work. because of this patch delivered by Baptiste. So yeah, it's just a detached plugin, and this is a plugin which is considered as a detached one only on Java 11. And if you want, Baptiste, you can clarify how it works.
Yeah, so it's using for people not really knowing how it works. So for historical reason and to maintain backward compatibility, when basically the Jenkins core decides to try and remove some API, for instance, given how much Jenkins cares about backward compatibility, something called detached plugin has been introduced some years ago, trying to make a kind of allowing basically to extract the core into a given plugin, so that then plugins that would be relying on some core feature that was basically removed would keep working. So how does it work? The core automatically adds implied dependencies, which is also so known as detached plugins, to the plugins that are being installed. We reuse the same feature for JAXB. So by packaging JAXB jars as so-called JAXB API plugin, the only difference and the only feature that got introduced is that it's going to do exactly what I described, basically adding that plugin as an implied dependency when we install a plugin, but only if the current Java runtime environment is 11 or more. So that means that if you're basically running on Java 8, you won't be seeing that plugin get installed. But if you're running on Java 11, you should be seeing JAXB automatically get installed, and that should work automatically. So one case, we tested a few ones, but the main one I've been working on to try and test that thing is the slug count plugin, which is using the JAXB API to serialize its data model, as far as I understand. And if you install that plugin on Java 11 before that patch, basically it would fail. But if you install it on Java on the 2.164, it should work just out of the box as any other plugin using JAXB, because then it will basically add to the class path the missing JAXB jars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so thank you for explanation. And yeah, everything was released. So the plugin is in the main update center, as well as all other dependencies we need for Java 11. So another patch we had is actually reverting all custom changes we had in Docker images and in Jenkins core. So for example, here Jenkins now uses standard update center by default when running with Java 11. And theoretically, it means that everything is done. Yesterday, we had a discussion at the governance meeting. Firstly, the agreement that 2.164 will be the new LTS baseline. And it means that in the new LTS baseline, we will have silent Java 11 support out of the box, unless we discover something really serious during the testing. And yeah, if needed, we can proceed at any moment and say that the incoming LTS baseline, as well as any future weekly release, have J support of Java 11. So yeah, we actually completed all main coding tasks. And if you take a look at the epic for Java 11J in Wiki, you may see that there is some open tasks, but they're mostly about the documentation and about testing, because we still need to complete a full test suite run for ETH and for PCT. So similarly, for what we were doing for experiment for preview availability in December. So we will need to repeat that, and yeah, there are also some open tasks which we will need to discuss later. But the most of the epic is completed, and yeah, it's looking really good. So yeah, there are also some test tool updates which are needed for the test automation. That's it. So unless we discover something really bad, Java 11J will be within 1 month.
You have a question?
Oh, I did. We had the enable future flag to safeguard us against enable future Java flag as a safeguard against users making the incorrect choice of a Java version. Does Ubuntu 18 still deliver Java 10 as its default Java version? And if it does, is that going to be a problem because now someone on Ubuntu 18 may attempt to run with Java 10 when it absolutely is unsupported?
Yeah.
It won't be a problem. because how the patch was implemented, now it supports explicitly only Java 8 and Java 11. If you want to run on Java 10, you will still need to set enable future Java.
Yeah, but there's a really that I'm not sure. I don't think that's what Mark is saying. But basically, there's a crop on Ubuntu which basically is installing Java 10, identifying at Java 11, right? So I'm not sure how it identifies at runtime. So maybe
so we check Java specification version. And it means that if Jenkins starts with Java 10, if Java specification version is 10, we will still require enable future Java flag.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good. That's perfect. Like, thank you. That was my only concern, to be sure that somebody naively installing on Ubuntu 18 with the Java that they packaged by default would have a bad experience. And what you're saying is, no, they'll be told directly, no, you may not run this without putting in that special flag. Thanks.
Yeah.
If you're able to still produce that issue, Mark, that would be interesting to double check. I suppose they didn't go to like cropping so much that they would redefine the Java specification version system properly. So if it's not the case, so Oleg is fully right. This is just going to forbid you to start.
Great. Yeah, so it sounds like 2.164 is a place where we should intensify our advocacy and promotion of testing of that release, because it's the baseline for the long-term support, and because it's Java 11. So there's lots of motivation for us to social media promote this, to promote it all sorts of places. Test 2.164 heavily.
Yep. Yeah, it's not something we discussed yet, but yeah, it would totally make sense. So the ETA for RC release is 2 weeks. So we need 2 weeks to backport the stuff. But yeah, we have Oliver on the call, so maybe he's open to starting RC testing earlier.
Oh, and I'm not even worried about starting RC testing earlier. I just think we ought to inspire people to test the weekly.
No, yeah, weekly, that's for sure.
Right. I mean, for now, there's not much of a difference, right? Because we choose the latest weekly to become the LTS. And I reviewed all the candidates for this morning, and I realized that basically all the candidates are already, imported in because of the choice of a baseline. So provided that it won't be any LTS candidate that would be released in 65 version, I presume that the .1 might be just the same as the weekly. So I guess it's it makes perfect sense to encourage people to test the weekly on Java 11.
Yeah, it would be great.
And
okay, so it seems we lost Durgadas again. Okay, any other questions about Java 11 status?
So no problem then with me to start promoting. You said we'd done a silent launch of Java 11 2.164. Is it okay to actively promote it? And should we change from silent to non-silent launch?
To do non-silent launch, I believe that we need to complete testing. These tickets. So so far it looks good, but yeah, speaking of testing, it's one of the next items in the topic about ETH status sync up. By the way, there is no Ramon on the call. Baptiste, or maybe Mark, would you have a chance to ping him again?
I will ping him, you bet.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Just because it's better to do it in Slack, and probably the screen sharing Slack is not the best idea. Okay. So yeah, while you're waiting for Ramon, so regarding Java 11 status, there are some other interesting things, just to summarize. So 2 months ago, Adrian and Baptiste were presenting Java 11 in Evergreen, and effectively it's something which is still on the table. If I recall correctly, Baptiste has recently updated the Evergreen baseline, so maybe we will be able to ship Java 11 support quickly as well.
It's going to be easy, yeah. Because I already switched to another base Docker image instead of Alpine to CentOS, but basically anything else than Alpine is nowadays easy. So there's a link ticket for the whole explanation, but basically, so for instance, there was that tweet and explanations at length by Mark. I don't remember the architect, the Java platform architect, but basically explaining that they are not releasing Alpine packages, and it's unlikely they will ever do it for Java 11, and maybe they will do it for Java 12. So given that, we decided to, definitely Alpine nowadays is not the right platform for Java centric applications. So that's why I decided to just move away from that base image for Evergreen at least, and I guess we should probably do those kind of things for Jenkins in general, because I'm not sure this is a mature and stable future for Java applications to run on Alpine, basically, given that.
Yeah, that's for sure. And yeah, thanks a lot for this migration. So,
and given also the cadence, the release cadence acceleration that's ongoing, as we know, Java 13 is already started. Java 14 might be starting soon. So yeah, we need to be able to basically upgrade JDKs easily and not like a very real pain all the time.
Yeah, that's right. And speaking of another project, Jenkins File Runner, there were also some updates, mostly by Evarista. He actually updated Jenkins File Runner internals to support running with Java 11. There were some issues with the class loader, but now they are resolved. And yeah, if you want to try Jenkins File Runner, there is a demo for JDK 11. It works out of the box. So yeah, you can now run Jenkins File Runner there. And this is a first foundation step to enable all cloud-native Jenkins flavors to run with Java 11, including Jenkins X at some point. So yeah, there is a good progress there. And same custom work packager. Originally, we had a plan to apply some fixes in order to support that. But starting from 2.1.63, thanks to Baptiste for this patch, we don't need anything specific to run with Java 11. And hence, custom work packager builds images as is. So this flow is also updated to support Java 11. And when we announce general availability, probably we can announce it together with Evergreen. Or maybe we could do separate announcements depending on the timing. Okay, so that's what I wanted to tell about Java 11 status. So yeah, Evergreen.
Baptiste, are the things that you learned in making the transition to CentOS captured in commit messages in the Evergreen repo, or is that one that we should consider a blog post on or something else to share how your CentOS experience was?
To be honest, I don't think it's that complicated or anything special. The only thing that brings to mind, and I think that's mainly like this, the only thing that's, I think the which command is not in the path and not installed by default, which I learned. I was very surprised. But well, that's probably the only thing, because everything else was just working, out of the box correctly. And in Evergreen and in general, we don't really depend on the OS and everything. So it's not like I had to fight anything. It was just kind of very straightforward. And like the only blocker again was like trying to, because I had the tests failing because I was looking for if some command was on the path. So I was using that command, and it was failing. But that was basically the only failure. So
yeah. One question: which Java is actually being used in the CentOS image now?
And confirmed. Let me have a look. I don't remember off the top of my head. I did that already 2 or 3 weeks ago, so I have a doubt. I'm checking right now. 3 seconds. Where is it? Blah, 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 blah.
I assume it's Java 8.201 or Java 8.192.
Yeah, maybe. Let me see. The change is going to be big. Yeah, Java 1. So I'm not even sure. I should probably pin it. But right now, what I use is the official package that's called Java-1.80-OpenJDK.
Perfect. So you use the standard package for CentOS.
Yeah. That's one of the things. But yeah, I should probably pin it a bit more.
Yeah, maybe since we have Oliver on the call, what would be advice for CentOS? keep using OpenJDK or maybe switching to Red Hat's build of OpenJDK?
Well, I presume that when you're installing OpenJDK on CentOS, the bits are already coming from Red Hat. I mean, from the wider CentOS community, but I don't presume that would be all that different.
Yeah, maybe we need to get the extended version to make sure, because it may be critical for some stories and, for example, for Java 11 support documentation. Because we say that we support any Java, but if we at some point decide to specify which particular Java builds we support, then it would be nice to know what we actually use.
Right. I mean, I cannot think of a better choice than using CentOS and whatever OpenJDK they would distribute. So yeah, I guess the best thing I can do is to refer you to the upstream CentOS documentation.
Okay.
I just posted the version that it's using, so yeah, that is not specifically clear to me. I don't know what I could do to check that. Maybe Oliver knows, but yeah, it's 191. But there's no specificity as far as I know. Maybe full version will tell me who built that, but I'm not sure if I can track it down instead of using the build like a SHA, whatever, somewhere.
I'm not sure that who built it is particularly crucial. That version number already and the fact that it's bundled in CentOS feels like the right choice to me.
Sure. Well, but as just to kind of completeness, I totally agree. It should be this kind of the same normally, but like for clarity or for like just making sure like we know the full picture. But I agree with you.
Okay. So yeah, maybe we can take it offline and see what's actually being used. So Alex cannot join. Durgadas has dropped. So I believe these topics we just postpone to the next meeting. But regarding acceptance test harness, we also still don't have Ramon on the call. So probably I'll quickly summarize what has changed there. So since we reverted patches in 2.63 and in 2.64, we need to update the definition so that actually this pull request. So we needed to update the build in order to actually test what we actually run in Jenkins, so without custom libraries. And yeah, this patch was about that. So since it's already integrated, I believe the next steps for us would be to wait till master build completes and investigate what are the results there. Is it right? Or should we do something else?
That sounds good to me.
Plus one.
I guess having this thing released is something master PR build would benefit from, right? We probably want to consume it from essentials in Jenkins core. So once we are okay with how the build goes, should I release it right away?
Sorry?
Are you interested in me cutting a release as soon as we are confident about it?
For acceptance test harness?
Yes.
For acceptance test harness, we actually can take a release by commit ID. So there is no specific need to cut a release, though if it feels good to you, it would be much appreciated. Yeah, I think that what would be really interesting for us as a next step is to actually compare what fails. Because, yeah, there is a significant number. I'm running in the Russian version of the browser, but yeah, 287 tests have failed. Yeah, there is a pretty long list. And yeah, for some packages, it's obvious that the tests are the same. So Java 8 and Java 11 tests fail. But yeah, we need to compare that everything it's the same.
Just to make sure, Oleg, you put that at the sub-item of Evergreen. I think it's just a small mistake. We should just put it on the left, right?
Yeah. Yes, sorry.
Done.
Yeah, actually, it should be here.
Okay.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we don't have Ramon on the call, but yeah. I think that first the next step would be to just compare this run result. Does it run with 2164?
I didn't check, to be honest. Oliver, do you know off the top of your head which version it's using? Is it spinned? Is it using a red master?
Yeah, this thing is supposed to be using a master branch, or the latest released. Surely it should be consuming weekly the pull requests.
Yeah.
So anyway, I have cut. Well, I started preparing a new branch for LTS this morning, and the tests are running against that. I guess at this point. So yeah, we would have to go through the list of failures and see how serious they are. So I presume that we would have a decent release about the latest release. In this case, both weekly and LTS to report where we are.
Yeah. By the way, just an aside, does incrementals work on non-master branches? I think it should or would. Like for instance, for the upcoming LTS, you can deploy a snapshot.
It's working for LTS.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for the ongoing branches, that would be also, I guess. Well, if we push a snapshot, that's probably fine enough. But yeah.
Okay. So stable. Oh yeah, here's our new branch, and here commits for this new branch, and yeah. So thanks, Oliver, for creating that. What have I done? I definitely clicked a wrong button, but yeah, if you click here, you may see that there are actually incrementals produced.
It is wrong, but it works. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wrong because we still haven't fixed this issue. It's reported to the incrementals tools, but yeah, it really depends when Jesse had some availability or somebody else fixes that.
Yeah.
But this is the correct link.
That's great because then Oliver doesn't have to do manually all the time, deploying latest snapshots.
Well, we have that, and we also had a discussion for Docker images. So currently we ship Docker image for the master branch automatically. I'm happy to enable it for stable version as well. But the thing is that we need to do something about Java 11 because there is one task here, probably in this epic or in another epic, to actually adjust the Java 11 build flow because it was based on Docker Hub, it was using feature branch. And now, since we want to produce two images from the same branch, we actually need to use Jenkins to ship these images. So likely I will be adopting JEP 217 in the core at some point. So I mean, yeah, there is an experimental Jenkins organization, and we can write pipeline.
Actually, yeah. I'm not sure what you're saying is that we need two branches or something. I don't think it's the case. You can point now since some time in the automatically built branches in Docker Hub. You can just specify different Docker files.
Different folders. And the problem that the relative source is still the same, unless I'm wrong.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm not sure. Yeah. I thought we were able to point to a specific Docker file the time, each time. But yeah, that's fine. We can check.
Okay, so yeah, what is follow-up actually shipping Docker images for stable?
But should it be? Yeah. I see what you mean, because I'm actually wondering if we should. Is this your meaning? Okay, experimental would be the other one. Manage repository.
Yeah, if you want, you can just take over and screen share.
Because for now, I don't think there's anything private or whatever. But I'm looking at the configuration right now, so I don't want to expose without willing it secrets or whatever.
Okay.
I'm wondering about the idea to publishing Docker images for stable branch. So is it new image published every commit, right?
It depends. Every pipeline run. So it means that each pipeline run, it can produce Docker images.
Right, which would definitely be useful for both LTS testing and perhaps even supplement the image we push during release. So that's definitely an interesting addition. Though I'm wondering, is there a way to prevent customers to be confused? Because right now it's just, it would mean that as I do backporting and as I pushing it for testing, it can publish images that are not yet stable, right? So people are not confused that this is the actual release.
Yeah, here's the advantage of JEP 217, because we create new experimental Jenkins organization on Docker. So it means that these releases will not go to the official organization. Now we call it Jenkins for eval, but yeah, we plan to rename it according to the discussion. The ball is on my side, I believe. But yeah, what we have here, we already have some images. For example, this one being produced by Durgada SIG. And for example, there is experimental BlueOcean support. This is Java 11 image for BlueOcean. There are experimental remoting builds, etc., etc. And we can actually create more experimental flows as a reference implementations for this job. It hasn't been completed, but from user perspective, it will be safe until you know about this organization.
Yes, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, this job is under review, but it's in the scope of the platform SIG. We just didn't discuss it since the last meeting, but yeah, it's here. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a few minutes left. Do we have any other topics to discuss?
I have a question.
So. Go on.
I had a question on the tags that we will use to describe Java 11 in the weekly. Today there's Slim and Alpine, we've said no, but there's a tag for Slim and one for LTS and one for latest. How will JDK 11 be represented in that? Will it?
So it's also reflected in JEP 211.
Oh, I can just read the JEP there.
Yeah, you can read the JEP, but effectively our main branch is called JDK 11. So Jenkins JDK 11 is baseline, and we have other images. For example, if we decide to have CentOS here, it would be CentOS-JDK 11. Or LTS-CentOS-JDK 11, which may become a bit complex, but yeah, this is what we would have.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, the tricky part will start when we decide to switch the default image to Java 11 from Java 8. Then, yeah, we will have some fun, but we haven't reached this point yet. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And actually, we will need to talk about when we want to do that, but I believe not in the next few months.
Yeah. I am actually considering to do this for Evergreen. Might be a way to do that first and a subset of tests, because in Evergreen we, as people might not know or may know, we have a exact fixed set of plugins that are installed, so it's quite easier to know what we want to test and then make sure things are still working. But yeah, we can probably bump it there first, because it's also designed by design, supposed to be always up to date for everything, and then kind of ramp it up for the Jenkins core itself.
Yeah,
I would imagine that what you're saying is something we will must do in 1 year from now or something, because at some point we are going to have to go, above JDK 8. Not saying we will support JDK 8, but at least, yes, the default JDK installed with the Docker image at some point might be that, yeah. Now, how we are going to communicate that to users so that they don't have automated bump, screw up internal things or custom plugins, that's another story. But yeah.
Yeah, it may be fun, and there are still some open questions. For example, we had serious issues with Debian Shopify 1588.
Yeah.
So we might want to change the default image in Java 11.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it would be better to do it before we make Java 11 default in Docker.
Yeah, I have expressed that length on the notes. I linked the issue on Evergreen side, but basically it probably applies to Jenkins too. Basically, try to explain the full reasoning behind the switch to CentOS. And basically, I said there that that's my opinion. That's not really shared, but yeah, like Debian or Ubuntu have not shown, and again that's coming from originally Debian fanboy. Nowadays, they didn't show really a lot of empathy towards running Java applications, basically. So Java Surefire 1588 and the other one on Ubuntu, as Mark was saying, basically installing a JDK 10 when you're installing a JDK 11. What could go wrong? So yeah, a lot of things this way that show that. I'm not sure, and unfortunately, that Debian and Ubuntu are platforms where there's enough developers that actually care about Java in general. So yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we could even talk about switching the default image before we go to GE. Thinking that we have no test automation for Docker images at all. Well, yeah, maybe we could just change, but yeah, I don't have strong opinions about that.
Yep. I guess maybe for now it's fine until we have a new backport that goes wrong on Debian. Yeah. Or the alternative might be to just say, okay, we don't switch the OS right now, but instead of using the distribution packaging system, we basically wget directly the OpenJDK build from the adopt OpenJDK server, or from somewhere else, and decompress it on the disk instead of using the base package system. That might be an intermediate way to do things, but yeah.
I think it would be interesting to have CentOS as an alternative image. So like we provide Slim and Alpine in for Java 8, we could also start providing CentOS for both Java 8 and Java 11. And then, well, we can migrate at some point.
That might sound indeed like a kind of almost a required path to try and ramp up things progressively, instead of saying, okay, we switch everything and nobody had ever a simple way to test things. Yeah.
So I propose to just a topic about CentOS images to the next meeting. So yeah, maybe we could talk about it, and
yeah, great.
Maybe just do it.
Yeah, maybe in the meantime we could have an action item to surface and have that idea discussed like publicly. On the dev list, maybe, because yes, I know we have a mailing list for the SIG, but I'm like, well, this is maybe something we want to socialize more than just in the internal, even if it's public, but there's not the same level of, not the same amount of people there, basically. I can handle that action item if you think people here that it makes some sense. We try to socialize that idea that we would are considering in the long term to switch the base image, basically. Or do you think it's better to just for now wait until the next meeting? I
think that if you start discussion in advance, it would be a good advantage for us.
Yeah, that's why I'm proposing that. Yeah, because we can then on the next meeting we have more data to chew and actual possibly maybe not, but feedback from people saying good arguments why it makes sense or why it doesn't, or why it's dangerous or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have 1 minute left.
Okay, so I'll do that then.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Do we have any other topics to discuss?
I got 10 seconds to be on time. That's absolutely great. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Yeah. Cheers.
Okay. Cheers. Cheers. I see you in 2 weeks.